Hello and welcome to Northside Now. This is the podcast where your three lovable hosts take you on a tour through all of the ministries and the latest happenings around Northside Church to keep you better connected with your church family. I'm one of your hosts, Patrick, and with me as always are my two co-hosts, the illustrious Glenn Miller and the enigmatic man of mystery, Kevin Bryant. What's going on, guys?
It's good to see you again on another fine day.
Yes.
It's starting to warm up a little bit out there.
It is warming.
Yeah, I felt it when I left my house on my way to my car. That's about the only time I've been outside today. So
Yeah, it is definitely beginning to turn into summer. Schools are finishing up and summer is starting.
Yeah.
I feel like a beginning of a Phineas and Ferb cartoon around
That's
here.
right.
So, yeah. Oh, and another big sign of summer is coming is I now have a backyard full of lightning bugs.
Oh, cool.
Now,
were you running around out there last night catching them and putting them in a mason jar?
I wasn't, but I'm going to soon. Because do you have the fast lightning bugs in your yard or do you have the slow lightning bugs in your yard?
I've not timed them recently.
I haven't either.
Some of them, flash really fast and some don't flash as fast. But
they seemed slower when I was younger, but as I get older, they seem faster.
Time is speeding up.
well, this year we have the fast flashers.
All of them are fast flashers?
Yeah. Everyone. It was last night. It was like a disco in our backyard. It was do, real fast.
I have seen video. That reminds me, I've seen videos of lightning bugs in sync with each other. Have you seen that before?
Yeah, it's actually over around Cates Cove in eastern Tennessee.
Yeah, they all blink at the same time.
And there's just it's less than a week or something that happens.
That's pretty cool. It's like those drone shows that they do.
Yeah, exactly.
You seen those drone light shows? Those
yes.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, like at the is that like the ones they did at the Super Bowl or
the
Olympics. The Olympics.
The Olympics,
that's
that's what it was.
Yeah, speaking of drones, I went down a rabbit hole this week looking at drones about the brand. We don't advertise the brand as Skydio or whatever, but it uses 3D mapping technology to maintain a target in frame.
Interesting.
Oh, wow.
So you don't have to pilot it at all.
All right.
And there are others, I think, that have done that before, but this one, its kind of claim to fame is that it doesn't even necessarily need to always, that it has an attachment where it doesn't have to have a line of sight even sometimes.
Oh, wow.
So that it can, you can kind of hold that, put it in your pocket or whatever, and it will sync off of that via GPS.
Is that, and those are available for consumer purchasing?
I think it's like $1,400.
Okay, because I had seen
military's
some stuff,
had that for a while.
Yes.
Yeah, military stuff where they could just say, "Here's your target." There's 1,000 drones that fly in, and they go in and they find the one guy they need to. And
that's how a lot of your smart bombs and a lot of your missiles have flown for a long time now, though.
Yeah.
So it's just now getting to the consumer market.
With the military ones, they've got, they're outfitted with infrared and all kinds of stuff there. Yeah. But I thought, man, if I had
pretty cool.
$1,500 just sitting around somewhere, I'd love to get a drone.
Yeah, I didn't realize they had that available for,
You should check it out. I'll send you a link. And
yeah,
I thought it was really, really cool.
Yeah. We have a drone waiting on us as soon as they find all the parts to it.
Oh, man.
That's what we keep getting told.
Hey, Ben Ferguson, if you're listening to this, we need the battery
and the controller. The batteries and the controller.
We could use that for the youth production.
We could if we had a batteries and controller.
Well, maybe it'll come then.
We hope. Well, we learned recently that Patrick doesn't have a budget for drones right now.
No. Apparently, I've been spending too much money since I got here.
Well, it's from stuff that was needed.
Yeah.
That is something, COVID really put a big tax on a lot of the computer world. And, and so a lot of ours was getting older and some of them got overtaxed.
Yep.
Well, and the shortages of computer chips and all that kind of stuff that's happening with worldwide commerce.
And it's really hard to get like graphics cards right now.
Yeah.
Because of all the cryptocurrency mining, because that's what you used to mine cryptocurrency.
I got you.
And there's only like one factory in Taiwan that supplies all of the graphics cards, basically. I mean, that's a little bit of an oversimplification.
Sure.
Yeah. I wonder if Caterpillar and John Deere will start making graphics cards so they can be in the mining business.
Hey, you know what? They'd be smart too.
Well, they already have a lot of high-tech electronics in their machines now.
Oh, yeah, they do. Oh, yeah.
I just know all the gamers are getting upset because they can't build their PCs because they can't get graphics cards. And so I've actually heard of a few that are buying pre-built computers from places like Dell and stuff like that and just pulling the graphics cards out to put in their other machine. It's like they're buying a whole computer for $2,000 just to get access to that graphics card. And it's...
There you go. Shout out to Micah Bryant. This is the option you need. So go check it out.
Yeah. Hey, if you got the money.
He doesn't have the money, but he is definitely building a gaming PC and product.
Good for him.
I would say it's got water cooled stuff, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
But it's got all the LEDs on the cooling part and the motherboard. It's pretty fancy.
That's pretty snazzy.
It is, and he's got the glass or plastic on
case, the side so
you can see through it.
Oh wow!
I mean, it's so high tech. It looks it's just impressive. Very impressive.
Well, good.
Hey guys, did you realize that May is Mental Health Awareness Month?
I did not realize that.
Yeah, me either.
When we talked to Noreen in a previous podcast, I didn't really even think about that. But since this is originally airing in May, it makes a whole lot of sense to talk about that. And I really enjoyed part one of the conversation last week. I think, as we mentioned in there in several different ways, it's about time to start talking about good mental health. Really, I mean, it's something we should all be aware of and not shy away from it.
Yeah, totally.
And Miss Noreen's great, isn't she?
Yeah.
She is.
Absolutely.
She's fun.
And just has such a great spirit and so gentle and just really does a fabulous job at what she's been called to do.
Yeah. And now she's a therapist or counselor. I'm not sure exactly her title, but there's a difference there between psychologist and psychiatrist and therapist, and all are helpful in finding good mental health and helping with issues and illnesses. But do you know where the term shrink came from?
No.
I want to. No, I don't really.
Something about shrunken heads.
Yeah, I was going to
so
Beetlejuice.
the Amazonian tribe where they, shrink heads and whatnot. And I think it was first used in, what was the movie? Rebel Without a Cause, maybe, or something, where they were talking about you need to go see a head shrinker. And I'm not saying that was the very first time, but from then on, it's become this sort of derogatory term, right? If somebody's shrinking your head, you're kind of just like not sure what they're doing. It's sort of mysterious and maybe scary and whatever. Yeah. And I think so many times in our past, whether it be people from our family saying that or movies or films or whatever, it puts a stigma on that. Going to one of those places is scary and it's bad and it's mysterious and you just don't want to be a part of it. So that's just like using the crazy word.
Yeah.
Shrink is something that I've heard many people say, and it's, it's usually not a positive when people are saying it.
See, I didn't even realize.
But
learn something new every day.
Yeah, you hear that term a lot, and I guess I kind of just you knew what kind of was about or whatever, but just didn't really think about it all right. Because I don't ever remember saying you're going to a head shrinker.
Right. Yeah. So. Usually we don't put the head part in there, but it's.
Now, if I could go to a head shrinker, that might be good. I've been told I have a big head, so.
But then all your hats, you wouldn't be able to fit.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, they just fall over your nose. Look kind of funny.
I already look kind of funny. It's all right.
You look like you've spent some really good, serious time in the woods. That's what I always think of when you look there. Like you've been chopping lumber or,
Yeah.
Well,
survivalist.
He is a timber maniac.
That's true.
But oh, wait, I have that.
There you go.
You got to get faster on the draw with those things.
I got to remember that.
Yeah. Patrick, you were talking about something else related to mental health, the phone number change.
Oh, yeah. We got a notice here at the church on April 24th. They suggested that we start dialing all of our numbers using all 10 digits.
Okay.
Because come October, it will be required to even complete local calls. You'll have to dial all 10 digits. And all of this is in an effort for next July. They're implementing a 988 number.
Oh yeah, I read something about this.
Yeah, you can just dial 988 and it will connect you to the National Suicide Prevention Hotline.
That's awesome.
So rather than having to dial the 1-800 number that it is now, you'll just be able to dial 988. And they're working on, changing all their systems and stuff so that's possible. But starting in October, you're going to have to dial all of even your local calls with all 10 digits area code and the phone number. So,
well, at least we're not using the rotary phones where you got to, it takes like 5 minutes longer to do it.
That's
just
true.
Program it in your phone and it's pretty much easy.
What's a rotary phone?
No. Yeah, that's right. Like the episode you said back for the people that don't know what CDs are. They used to be made.
Yeah, for those listening that don't know what a rotary phone is.
Yeah, so you just take
it had
finger,
a wheel with all the numbers.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, I have to do that a few more times.
And then you'd do all that and someone would be on the other line, on the party line, and you're like really messed up their conversation.
Mom, get off the phone. I'm trying to use the internet.
That's right.
Well, actually, you couldn't use the internet with a rotary phone. You had to have the push button phone to do that.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
Dial tone.
Yeah. So, and, we were in Texas and Dallas whenever you started to have to do the 10-digit dial. And it does take a moment to get used to. So it is good to start it early.
Yeah.
So it just helps you kind of make sure that you have that pattern down.
Yeah. So. Well, I think it'll be good next year to have the availability for those that need it to be able to just dial 988. That's a little easier to remember than what is the
big long number, right?
Yeah, it's
1-800-273-8255.
Yeah.
That's 1-800-273-8255.
And a lot of times, they'll have something like, and then they'll put a word with it. And
yeah, it's actually 1-800-273-TALK.
Yeah. And sometimes it's hard to, depending on looking at how to do. And
right.
So it is better just to have because, that's what you have for a lot of other codes and stuff and your phones and stuff, especially mobile phones and stuff.
Yeah.
One of the things I thought about when we talked to Noreen was if you ever hear of somebody, even, you're not sure if they're serious, and maybe you can talk about this a little bit, Glenn, someone wanting to hurt themselves, you need to really let people know. It shouldn't, my personal opinion, it should never be they're just kidding.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, because all of us have either been touched by it or heard a story of, especially it could be anybody, but in teenagers, so they didn't really know anything was going on and maybe mentioned something, maybe didn't, and then, committed suicide or something else. So we really take it seriously.
Yeah. So many kids are afraid of ruining a friendship or hurting someone's feelings or getting them mad at them and they won't talk to you anymore, those kinds of things. But you need to tell someone who can help take action.
Right.
Because a lot of times when someone's getting to that point, it's obvious they're not responsible enough for their own actions they're quickly degrading a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times. Yeah. So to tell someone who can help, a parent, an older adult friend, youth pastor, school counselors, even if you have to call 911 and tell an officer,
right.
that is an option. So, or dial 988 when we get to that point,
right.
Hand the phone to your friend and say, here, you do need to tell someone because you need someone who can help them take action. And you just don't want to play with that. That's not something you want to have to walk through the rest of your days going, if I had only.
That's the thing, you never get a chance to take that action again. Yeah. Potentially if things were to go down the path and that person would die. But you just want to never give up that opportunity to potentially help.
Yeah. Good reminders for all of us. And here in the church, in the gym, in the youth zone over here, we have some little pamphlets, little cards, and just different things that if you're not sure what to do, you can always pick those up. And those are open. Just anyone grab it and go, grab it and take on. I have access to as many as I want. So, so we have those out there for that purpose. If you don't feel like you can really talk about it a lot or whatever at the moment, that you can have that in your hand, or if you don't remember the 800 number, you can throw it on your phone or in your pocket or something. So good stuff.
Well, and I remember in the last time we talked to Noreen, we're going to have part 2 coming up here in a second.
Yeah.
But I remember saying that it's not something that's should be scared about.
Yeah.
But maybe I misspoke there, I think, a little bit. it can be pretty scary
Definitely.
to be in a mental health crisis. So it's not really maybe what I meant. I meant that we shouldn't be afraid to talk about it. Yeah. It is going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. If speaking from personal experience, and you get into a mental health crisis or situation, it's rarely pleasant.
Yeah. Oh no.
You know, and that just anticipation of hard times, I know is not fun.
No.
But what I was trying to say was that we need to talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, we need to talk about hard stuff. I think that's just in general, educate ourselves. And, because I believe strongly that in that education, God's preparing you for something.
Yeah.
You know, talking to a family member, talking to a friend, maybe just being aware enough to get someone help. I really believe there's no real coincidences in this life. God's working everything together for our good, and with others too. So we could be part of that plan making that He's working on. So that's the way I see it.
And if you're not sure where to start, a good place to also start to talk to somebody is talk to one of your pastors.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason we have Noreen here at the church, and if one of them can't, help you the way that you need, then they can always refer you to someone, and they have some good resources there. So,
right.
And everything you'd say to them is confidential. So,
definitely. Mm-hmm. And we're all trained to know when this is beyond us, right?
Right.
And so we're there to help provide you the resource. Maybe we can help you with that for a while, but it doesn't take us long to figure out whether or not you need someone to talk to with a lot more skill sets like Noreen has.
Well, I'll go ahead and tell you that I probably don't have that skill set. You probably don't want to talk to me about it.
No. Everybody can listen. And we need to remember, Kevin, you talked about talking about hard things. Right as Jesus began his ministry on the earth, he did a 40-day, 40-night wilderness adventure that was not pleasant. It was not easy. It was not, and how he dealt with that is a real model for us. Luke 9:23 says, "Pick up your cross daily." Of course, he walked to that cross, and the Holy Week experience, having your friends, your students, everybody deny you and kind of turn their back on you. Ultimately, Jesus was on the right side of his Father, but the reality of it is, Jesus even doesn't say, "Oh, follow me and everything's going to be beautiful and perfect." And
that's for sure.
And stuff. You're gonna pass through some hard and difficult days, and how we respond to those. And we are called a church. We're a body, and the body helps the other members of the body make it through. Paul talks about that often in Scripture. So we all are going to have days, times, seasons, periods where it's going to be tough. Everybody does that. Even Jesus did that, and did it more than once. And so it's important for us to use the pieces of the church around us to be whole. And so, it's important to talk.
Yep.
Important to talk. Let's turn back to Miss Noreen as we finish up the second part of our conversation with her. And we think you'll enjoy where this goes.
So if we have someone, let's just kind of step back a little bit to something we covered a little earlier. If we have someone that we know, we feel like is concerning with whatever may be going on, how can we help? I mean, knowing that they have to want to get help, how can we, as a concerned friend or family member, help in that situation? Is there something we can do? I mean, what?
Well, number one, I think the element of trust must be there. And that's perhaps in this generation, that's something that is really difficult. Whom do we trust, and are you really trustworthy?
Right.
And if I share this really intimate or painful thing with you, are you going to keep it secret, or what's going to happen with it? And if the person is not trustworthy, then you've probably really harmed someone. So I think you've got to find someone who's willing to listen. And I always say to people, what do you think communication is? And they'll all say, blah, 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 blah. We can talk about it. I said, there's another part. And of course, you're all nodding your head, listening. Most people, and I think most is not exaggerated, do not really listen. They might listen to the first couple words or 3 words, and they kind of just fill in the rest. So you really want someone that you feel if I'm going to share this, I want really I want to know that you're listening with not only with your head, but with your heart.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is not easy. My dad was a very good listener. You when you meet one, you know you've met one.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday, one of my clients came in and she looked like she had a very hard time. And I just said, "How have you been?" And she immediately burst into tears. And it turned out it was a great day to be there because you can really put some coping mannerisms in there. But a lot of people need someone to listen. Mm. I love to listen. I realize that not everybody's born with that ability. I didn't really know that until I went to graduate school. I listen. That is not a, brag. I'm just saying I was gifted with being able to listen.
Yeah.
I definitely believe that's true. I've known people who want to listen,
but they really can't.
But just they can't.
Right.
No, and there are some people that just get it innately. Mm-hmm. And I think that's super important example with our kids is being able to establish that trust. Mm-hmm. If there's not trust there, you're not going to get any doors open.
No, you're not.
They're just not going to open.
And even if, I like to say, and I always work toward this, your home is your castle. That should be the place you go and you can let your hair down and slap around and, and be yourself, and everybody's going to care about you. And that doesn't happen real often in families. Maybe like they used to, I don't really know. Because they're all families have issues.
Right.
But I still think that's worth mentioning. Your home is your castle. It's your safe place. And when it's not that and there's not trust, it's pretty impossible to achieve that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think unfortunately a lot of homes are battlefields.
Yes, true. I know they
are. It's just tough.
And I think that was true in other generations.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely.
But again, I think we swept
just
things,
swept
things under a rug.
Oh, yeah. We're not going to talk about that.
Don't tell mom and dad, or don't tell grandma and grandpa, or don't tell your friends. And
well, many families are raised with don't talk, don't feel, don't share. And when you hit the doorway, you better look perfect because you're representing our family out there.
Oh, in ministry, so often
same thing.
People have said, and I've heard, don't tell the pastor, don't tell the church, don't tell your Sunday school teacher. And I have walked that path in all these years, and I'm like, if you can't tell your church, we've got a problem. That's you should be able to tell your church because you're talking to the body of Christ. Anything, there should be nothing that is.
Well, I'll flip that on its head. I've also seen churches that have kind of shunned people away for
completely
being different and not matching whatever their perceived image of themselves was.
Completely.
If you don't fit our standard, you're not welcome. And it's like,
and how
that's
sad.
Yeah,
I think
that's
that's
not really
plain sad when that happens.
Well, and that's exactly the opposite of what the Bible's trying to say.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. It's the opposite of the Jesus example for sure, but everything else. And we've talked before about barbecuing first and other episodes about how you connect really with Christian brothers and sisters, and listening, accepting, trusting are all part of that too. Once you develop and that's sort of 101 for a relationship in general. Once you have those things, then you can talk about real heart matters, where things like having a personal Savior and relationship with Christ and those kinds of things. Until you have that, it's really just sort of beating on the drawbridge, saying, "Let it come down, please. Just let me in." So the thing I would say to anyone listening, just from my own personal point of view, is that if you're listening to this and you're thinking, man, I know somebody comes to mind, and I really want to help, and I really have just sort of a tug or a calling to help them, but you don't feel like you're a good listener or whatever, you can work toward that.
Oh, definitely.
You can become a better listener.
Yeah, it's something I've been working on. By nature, I'm a fixer.
Yeah.
And so whenever people start telling me things, immediately in my head, I start thinking of ways to fix it.
Right.
And, and I tend to end up zoning out, or, I'm formulating what I'm going to say next, and then I've missed half of what they've said to me, I'm
glad you brought that up, because that is nature, and particularly for the male. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't want you to hurt. Therefore, I'm going to give you this sound advice.
Exactly.
Right.
And you'll be fixed and out of here.
Yeah.
So that's beautiful when you start to recognize it, though. Most people really don't want to be fixed, but they really want to be listened to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Did you hear that, all you husbands and husbands to be
And
out
now,
there?
don't get after me, husbands. Now.
Because I've been told that by my wife. I just need you to listen to me.
Yeah.
Well, our brains are different. I could do a whole thing on that, on male versus female brains.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's something that we really need to appreciate in each other.
Yeah, totally.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that we've talked about some ways we can help. Listening is super important.
And getting educated, taking that chance.
Yes, absolutely. So we can even sort of understand what the signs are.
Exactly.
Understand what behavior means. So let's just say, though, that we've either entered counseling ourselves or we have a friend who has. Explain to me a little bit the advantages of having Christian counseling.
When I came out of grad school, Christian counseling was really not important. And I set up a meeting with a well-known therapist in town at that time. And this individual had me come in fact, to her building and rent from her. I said, do you think I should be a Christian counselor? And she said, how do you think you could be anything but that? I said, well, I think there are all kinds of answers. She said, I think it's either in you or you have to cultivate it. But even if you have kindness and compassion, that's what Christ was.
Right.
So you are doing some Christian counseling, even if you're not calling it Christian counseling. And again, I think you mentioned, Kevin, or someone talked about a toolbox.
Yeah.
I had one client come in and say, I need some more help in my toolbox. I need to get along better, with my husband, my wife, whomever. And I kind of breathe a little sigh of relief when I've gone through their belief system and what they value. If God is in the midst, I always think, oh. Then I say, hey, there we've got a start of something in that toolbox.
I think that being a Christian, it's super important, but I see that all of us have a spiritual component, whether we want to say that we do or not. God created all of us. And if we can keep that in the mix in this whole picture, then we have an additional power source to help with whatever we're going through. If our life doesn't involve a creator or a savior,
something bigger than we are.
Exactly. Then it's really hard to tap into that in our lives. I just do think that having the Christian perspective is just even more powerful, because you can talk about those things that I believe is a part of all of us, whether we want to say it or not. And so I would always encourage someone to go to a Christian counselor if they can.
Well, I've worked with several pastors and their wives, and I remember one gentleman that I worked with was very much into biblical verses, and so I have a way of stopping that, because it really is a manipulation. Although they don't look at it like that. I just say, well, I'm not a biblical scholar, and I appreciate that you are, but I'm trained to look at it another way. But be assured that I am a Christian.
There's a difference between being a Christian and being a religious manipulator.
That's totally true.
Exactly.
Totally so. Well, what are some things we can do to maintain our mental health? What are some of do you have a top 5?
Well, in number 1 on the list is get enough sleep.
Oh, yes.
Oh, that's my problem.
Yeah.
When people come in, that is one of the very first things I check. Are you sleeping at night? Huh? Or, or a couple hours. I don't need much sleep. It's very, very important. Some people can get by, but they're the exception. Get enough sleep. If you can get sleep during the night, you can handle anything better during the day.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just kind of common sense. Something else, too, is be available. like we were saying earlier, if someone you really know wants to talk, be available. Don't like, oh man, I can't handle that. I better just move away from here. Something else. This one I really wanted to bring in, to resist medicating yourself. That, and many of us do. And we haven't really talked about medications.
Yeah, I think.
But this is one place that, if you are medicating yourself, either with drugs, alcohol, or whatever your thing of choice is, you're stopping yourself from maturing. And that's where a lot of teenagers really go wrong. Many people don't realize, and this is a fact I think that people should know, if you're into drugs and alcohol and you begin that at an early time, that really stops your maturation of your maturity. And you might be wanting to handle problems when you're 40, 50, or 60 like you were a teenager.
Noreen, do you include marijuana on that?
Yeah, I do.
Will you please shout that louder so that every teenager out there will listen to you?
Well, a lot of people are asking me.
They don't seem to listen to me.
That's why I tell you, when you have a teenager in your family, you put yourself in the roller coaster.
Right. Yeah.
I think you can only live by example and share what you believe in and don't believe in. But there's an inherent danger of trying marijuana. Well, it just relaxes me. It's not worse than beer or something like that. But there's a danger that you might use it too much until you're so laid back, that you really lose all your initiative. And you become very hard to get along with. And I don't want to be Pollyannish about it at all, because it's like, well, you're an old person. You don't know the fun, the relaxation. But be aware. And I've told my own grandchildren, my own children, be aware that you're running a chance there.
These things do alter you. They alter,
they absolutely
even
do.
Physiological
Good or
alterations.
bad. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
and when you use it like a crutch, it keeps you from developing proper coping mechanisms.
Exactly. And that is what really begins to happen. I'm having a tough day. In fact, I'm working with an individual who's in their 60s, still using that as a little slow me down at the end of the day. And then I ask, well, was the day really, really good or really, really bad? That's how I can begin to help them decide, why are you doing exactly? Because it was so good you want to just add a little lift to it, or was it so bad you just want to let it go?
Well, and because we're talking about this, and because in some ways it's pretty new, and I know a little bit about your background that you didn't mention, but people, and because we're a church and churches tend to sometimes sweep things under the rug.
Oh my.
But porn is used in the same way. It's just as dangerous.
Very dangerous.
I know because
that's one of my specialties.
Yes,
now.
exactly. I knew that.
It's okay to say that here.
Yes,
Working
yes.
in sexual addiction.
And so
with men and women.
Right.
Women are also afflicted.
So whenever you feel down and you go to your porn situation, you're doing the same thing of taking a drink or taking a puff or what are those other things?
Yeah, and I. In fact, the gentleman that looked me up 15 years later that's the issue that we're combating. But he's willing now to address what was really wrong 15 years ago.
Yeah. Well, and we've learned in our history here that why is that? Why is pornography just as bad, quote unquote, as an alcohol addiction, or maybe even worse? Or it has to do with our brain.
Absolutely.
And the chemicals in our brain that are stimulated when we're excited, when we're sad, all of that, the marvelous miracle of our brain that God's created is intended to work to keep us safe and to keep us healthy. And so, for example, when adopted kids are in trauma when they're little, the emergency response in them is to protect them.
Yeah.
If they're not safe, they're given a little injection of the neurotransmitter chemical in the brain that can become addictive. The same is true when you have a mind-altering substance that gives you the chemical to help your physical body stay safe. The problem is when that substitutes for healthy processing of stimulus. So we tell our kids all the time, you can take something to help you feel better, but if you really don't deal with what caused the feeling in the first place, you'll never move forward.
That's not popular.
I know.
It's ideal, but it's not popular.
We want this quick fix.
Yeah.
We want to feel better now. And when we're in a very sad, lonely, depressed state, I totally get that. But I really like the way you said resisting medicating. Mm-hmm. For in our specific case, I mean, many of you know that we have adopted kids, and mm-hmm. these kids came from really hard places, and we're totally committed to helping them live their best life as healthy as they can. Mm. And we really intentionally early on said we would really like to see if we could not use medication.
Yes.
To help them learn how to process their own feelings and emotions, and see if we can help them be healthy that way. And that's not always possible. Sometimes there's a place for medication to help with some of the things that we have to deal with. But if we can learn how to process our own lives and our own feelings, and this is, every time I think of this, I think back to Mr. Rogers. I watched Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood so much as a kid, and I understand not everybody does, and not everybody liked him at all. But one of the things he talked about, it's okay. It's okay to feel sad. Mm-hmm. It's okay to have a bad day, and let's talk about it and figure out why it was bad. Why do we feel so sad right now? And by doing that, you learn how to process those feelings and those emotions, which we all have. Not everybody. I guess there are certain circumstances where people don't feel things, psychosis and various things. But for most of us, we feel a full range of emotions, from happy to sad to lonely, all these things. So, and that's the way God created us. And we really need to learn how to process all those things. Yeah. And that's what keeps us healthy and helps us go through the rest of our life.
I'd like to interject that when our parents come in, I suggest to parents, and I work myself raising children, identifying your feelings so that they will know that it's okay.
Yeah.
Or if somebody says, I'm so sad, you shouldn't be sad. What's there to be sad about? No, if a child is courageous enough or needful enough that they're going to say they're sad, this is when you really need to be, your ear needs to hear that. So I think there's something really of value. Sometimes with some clients, I get very involved with the brain and the chemicals and the norepinephrine and the whole situation. But usually I try and keep my therapeutic talk pretty simple and straightforward. I'm not into psychobabble kind of things at all, because people are like, I didn't come here just to hear you talk about everything you know or don't know. Yeah. So I really try and keep it simple. But when you were explaining that, I'm thinking of a couple of people that I got very deep into the brain. I'm a member of the American Association of Christian Counselors. They have excellent classes that I've taken in pharmacology. Mm-hmm. And I must say, when I started my practice, I was very pretty much against medication. Mm-hmm. I really thought, no, let's handle this, like you were saying. I've had to change my mind as time has gone on here. And I think part of it, God made chemists. I don't think Satan did. So there's a reason why chemicals, and we understand that process now in our brain. Yeah. I think there are times that you definitely need an antidepressant, or if you have bipolarism, there are just things that need medication. I'm very careful when we get into anxiety, because they were talking habit-forming medication. Mm-hmm. So that's why I, again, try and give people something to actually do, to head off anxiety. But I've had to change my mind on pharmacology and medications. I think they're appropriate at times, but monitored by a family physician.
Yeah, I think,
not your best friend.
I think that a lot of times when we have mental illness come about, it's because we didn't get the opportunity to learn how to be healthy.
Exactly. Parents didn't talk about it. And that wasn't good or bad. It's not a judgment call. It just wasn't done.
Right.
But again, why doesn't your child have the right to feel sad? I'm always pleased with if a 7 or 8-year-old can say, I think I'm sad. In fact, when I'm talking with people, many times I go with, these are the 4 main things. I keep it very simple. Are you sad? Are you mad? Are you glad? Or are you scared? Because that's where we usually are. And the number 1, which would be universal, is scared. Usually we're scared.
Oh, really?
Is the universal emotion. Step out in the world and raise your hand if emotion is your number 1 emotion, and you're going to get hands up all over the earth.
That's a good point.
That's a little interesting, too. I was not really expecting you to say scared would be
no
number 1. I
Fear.
think maybe sad or...
We cover it up with a lot of other things.
Right.
Yeah. A lot of things are covered with anger.
Yeah. I was just going to say, a lot of times what presents as anger in my kids is really something entirely different.
Absolutely. And be so aware of that. I wish more people did.
Yeah.
Well, it takes...
I see a lot more stuff about anxiety now than I did even 5-10 years
it's
ago.
amazing.
It's everywhere now.
Oh, teens come in and say, I have an anxiety disorder.
Yeah.
Well, I said, well, how do you know that? Well, I just do. I talk to my friends and I know I do.
Yeah, I thought of my friends in Google.
And they
Siri told
diagnose me.
Yeah.
And I say it with tongue in cheek because I think that's I think it is true that we are free now to say that. You never heard about anxiety. What is that even?
Yeah.
When I was younger. But I am glad because it's so many people are governed by anxiety. And there are ways to, and I teach techniques to go with that. And if I can add one quick thing for a technique, when I have teenagers come in, I'll say, you've got what you need right with you. Deep breathing.
I was just about to ask you what would be your probably most.
That would be the first thing I would go with.
But again, when we were in Africa, you had us do a deep breathing exercise one night as part of your devotion, and I was like, I need to do this more.
I love working with that, and because it involves the senses, all 5 senses, and that's when you really begin to clear your right brain and move it to the left. That's why I say sometimes the brain is very fascinating, and I can get very technical, but I try really not to. Yeah. But I really love creating like favorite places and deep breathing, just by breathing in and exhaling, and then, believe it or not, listening to your breath. And with Darth Vader was the big thing, I'd say. And if you're by yourself, do a Darth Vader. Listen, because that'll help you center in very quickly. Yeah. So there are little ways. I worked with a teenager, and she was very anxious about going to her first dance. And so I said, we rehearsed it. We knew exactly what she would do. And she came back and said, it worked. And I said, and what did you do? She said, well, I used deep breathing. I taught the way you taught me to do it. It was so exciting because that's with us. Adults can use it.
Absolutely.
As I'm driving here, in fact, I'm finding myself deep breathing, thinking, oh my gosh, I hope I could answer some of these questions. So it's something that's always available, and you can put yourself to sleep with it.
Yeah.
Isn't it amazing that something as quote unquote simple as breathing could do all those things for you? It's not just quote unquote in your head. It's physical.
Your lungs fill with oxygen and get bouncy. They hit your diaphragm, and just like that, endorphins are released. So right away, you got a little step up.
I know when I used to train people in fitness, I would always say, in the Garden of Eden, God didn't put a Diet Coke machine. So drink water. My whole thing was
water.
drink water.
And that's on my list too.
There's just so much that we have that was from the very beginning. That is all we need. A lot of times, not always, but a lot of times.
And there are some other exercises, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1s that I teach, and I won't take the time to do it, but it also involves the senses. So anything, that immediately gets you into your head, into your touch, into your smell, into your sight, you're interrupting the right brain. And also just doing simple math. I've taught my own children that. If you can't get it out of your head, start doing math. Immediately, you're going to switch over to your left brain. And that can pull you out of a hump pretty quickly too.
So I don't know. I'm not very good at math. That might make me more upset.
Well, then you write it down. Yeah. You can do it even 2 + 2. Yeah. I mean, you don't have to get into just deep math.
Okay, that's more my speed.
You could count by 3s or 2s.
Well, I was wondering because like coloring got real popular. Would that be kind of the same principle? Just some of those things, or would that maybe be another technique that was trying to be?
That would be another technique.
Trying to be something different.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
that would be very relaxing to some people.
Yeah,
some people would find that very unrelaxing because of staying in the lines. So that's why I say it's so fun with each new person, what works for you.
Wow. Yeah.
And you mentioned a couple of times left brain. Why is it important to be in the left brain, or what is that?
Well, all of the trauma, but the majority of the trauma is stored in our right brain. And that's again where I call it the merry-go-round. Sometimes the trauma can be held back here, but it's automatically there now. So that's when you have to learn to immediately get on it and interrupt it, or it's going to go around and come back again.
Yeah, we've noticed with some of our kids that we call it upper brain and lower brain, but similar kinds of things. When you're in a kind of clear, more rational headspace, you can make decisions about things. You can really start to see and understand what your feelings and emotions are. But when you're sort of in survival mode, you're just doing whatever.
Well, your brain is flushed with adrenaline. And that's where the term brainwashing came from. You truly cannot get a thought. So when somebody's angry and screaming, don't even expect an answer that's going to be sensible, because the brain is it's so soft. The brain is so soft that it just absorbs that. And you really can't do anything positive until you've cleared that out.
So like when you have a 3-year-old and they're throwing
might as well
a fit,
forget it.
There's no talking to him at that point.
No, just put him under your arm.
You have to wait for it to end, right?
That is true.
Yeah, that's a great way to think about it. Yeah, great way to think about it.
Well, goodness, Miss Noreen, we could go on and on and on and on and on.
Well, thank you. I hope that it's helped. I think it's so exciting what we can do.
Yes, it is.
For ourselves. And again, I'm so pleased for people when they have the courage to come in and say, I'm willing to tell you my darkest, horrible moments. And then it's my responsibility to keep the trust. Yeah. And that's very important to me. And it's just very exciting to see someone when they change. Their behaviors begin to change, their thoughts begin to change. So thank you.
Well, thank you
for having me.
Well, it has been a pleasure for sure. And we're going to do this anyways. We're going to make you an official staff member. So we're going to ask you what we ask all the staff people at the end.
Okay.
We kind of call it a 3 for 30, and they make fun of me because I change it from time to time. But so this is just off the top of your head. What is your favorite book of the Bible?
Isaiah.
And who is your favorite character in the Bible?
Jesus Christ.
You're good.
He is kind of the main character. So
it makes me smile because she's the first one to ever say that.
That is true, actually.
Are you serious?
Yes. Yeah.
David has been a very popular answer.
Yeah,
no, I think Jesus is mine.
And what is your favorite childhood story from scriptures from the Bible?
Probably when I was 11, I was at church camp. And I grew up on a farm, and it was a really major big deal when you could scrape together the finances to go to a church camp.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I was 11, and I accepted Christ as my Savior around the campfire.
Oh, cool.
And that stays with me.
Oh, that's awesome.
The other thing is somebody gave me a green velvet heart that said, God is love. Oh. And I tacked it on my bedroom wall above my bed. It's probably still there to this day in the old falling down farmhouse. Those would be right up there with the top for me.
Cool.
Awesome.
Well, thank you again for coming in and spending this time with us over these last couple of weeks. We've learned so much from you, and thank you for doing that. Wow.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
I feel smarter already.
We told you she was great.
Yeah.
This is one of these 2-part podcasts or any of them. I have been thinking as we've been talking and in between the 2 weeks that I'm going to be sharing this a little broader than I normally do and really encouraging people to share this. Good conversations. I'm at a point where I think every parent right now, and we did not intend to spend so much time talking about young people and stuff, but every parent I think needs to listen to this.
Absolutely.
So
For sure.
Having, been a parent who's walked through some of these struggles, having other people understand it and be more educated really helps, because I will tell you from personal experience, it does feel like you're on an island many times. Like nobody really gets what this is like. And I think to some extent that's always going to be true.
Sure.
I mean, if you're not walking through the valley, it's hard to imagine you're walking through the valley, but I think we've talked about listening before, lots of things, having that open spirit to be sensitive to it really, really helps. Speaking as, someone who's been in those situations, it really helps your understanding and how you talk to friends that may be walking through it. And that's one of the biggest things, is that when you're in mental illness, crisis, you do feel alone a lot.
Yeah.
Like, why is this happening to me? Why can't I just feel better? Why can't I feel normal? And you really do need people there to help. Sometimes, unfortunately, depending on what it is, you don't really want the people that are around you to help you.
Yeah.
You just want to escape from it, or, various different range of emotions. But speaking from personal experience, prayer is always welcome.
Yeah.
We know that works, and God works through that, and works in you through that, right?
Yeah.
In the prayers that you say to help you develop awareness and sensitivity. But that's always welcome. When someone has surgery, a welcome thing is bringing meals after the recovery period.
Sure. Yeah.
We've experienced that when I had my surgery a few weeks ago, but that's not always possible for other things. But you'll find, as you sort of pray for sensitivity, that it may be other things that you can do. I could go on and on about all the gifts we've received in some of our challenges, but that's one way you can get involved.
Yeah.
And as we
definitely.
talk about mental health awareness, is how can you help? If you see someone in crisis, how can you help? And that's one of the things that you can do.
Hope you have enjoyed this time with Noreen, and I hope that you have gleaned some good thoughts and resources and just some good stuff from this, because it's like you said, it's a topic we need to be talking about.
Yeah.
It's a topic we need to be sensitive to in the church. It is not something, your spiritual life and your mental life, your emotional life, your physical life are all things that are a part of the body of Christ. And we all play a role in that with each other and with ourselves. And so we hope that this has been a good time for you.
Yeah, I have absolutely felt it's worth the time, and really enjoyed it and learned some things too.
Yeah, I feel like I need to go back and re-listen to it, so that because I feel like I missed something. I know I did.
Well, hey, if you're listening to this and it's not May, and you just got included into the Northside Nile podcast, you can go back and listen to all the previous episodes, and you can do searches for various topic things. And there's just been a lot of fun we've had, but a lot of good stuff you can learn too. So
yeah, we do appreciate you listening, and we hope that this is a valuable part of your time. But Patrick, what do we have coming up here? We are getting close to Memorial Day and all kinds of things. I mean, it's lightning bug season.
Yeah,
lightning bug
almost
season.
here.
Well, don't forget, tomorrow, May 26th, we're having fellowship at the fire pit. If it's not raining.
I have my little poker ready to go.
I have an umbrella I can shield my s'mores from.
Oh yeah, s'mores are worth getting a little bit of wet for.
It's worth it. It's worth it.
But yeah, bring your chairs. We're going to have just a great night of fellowship. We're going to sing some songs and eat some s'mores. But yeah, make sure you bring some chairs. And yeah,
it'll be fun.
It's going to be a good night. I'm glad we're doing this, and it's good to have these moments where you could just, there's more than one way to worship, and there's more than one way to spend time together, and it's good to explore those. And so glad we're doing this.
For sure. And then we got Memorial Day weekend coming up.
Yeah.
There's no youth that night. Is that correct?
No, that's correct. We take that whole evening off, and we want you to remember what that weekend's about.
Mm-hmm. And as a staff, we're taking the whole next day off. So the offices will be closed on Monday, the 31st.
And remember, Memorial Day is a lot more than just the official start of barbecue season. It is.
Oh, it is?
It is, yes.
Okay.
It is
boating season.
About those that
and
gave their life for us to be sitting here talking on some crazy looking microphones and sharing this information with you and doing it freely and not have to worry about somebody whooping up in here and hurting us for sharing our faith or our love in our Lord. So
for sure,
there's a lot of freedoms we have, and a lot of people who gave a lot for us to have them. So.
Yeah, and one of the things that we as a family in the past have, obviously it's focused on military service a lot of times, but there's other people that have served our country in so many ways, whether it be healthcare workers or we. One of the cool things we kind of have focused on at times were some of our extended family people were part of Heifer Project International, where they were some of the first, I think they called them cowboys, but the first folks who took cows over to, I think it was Eastern Europe after the war. And so that was not a super safe trip.
Yeah.
They endured a lot of things, but there's been tons of other people that have served in many, 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 many capacities that we should remember as well.
And we are getting closer to Pastor Don leaving us on the 13th of June. Will be his last Sunday.
Yep.
And so,
well, actually, the 2 Saturdays before that, Christy will probably appreciate that I mentioned this. On June 5th, there's going to be a field day for the kindergarten through second grade at 10 o'clock out in the gym, kind of in the field behind the gym as well. And then on the 12th, the next Saturday, is a field day for the 3rd through 5th graders.
Yeah,
Same time, 10 o'clock.
Yeah, I think they've got the gym, so whether it's rain or shine, they can do what they're going to do. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
Man.
I'm going to pretend like I'm a 3rd grader and I'm going to come.
It's not that far a stretch, really.
That's true. Now, is this mental age or is this?
Are you going to have sack races? I feel like I was pretty good at the sack race.
The 3-legged race.
The 3-legged race, yeah.
The one where you put the egg in the spoon.
Egg in the spoon, yeah.
Oh, man, that does sound like fun now that we're talking about it.
Just a straight out relay.
Yeah.
That was always the funnest.
Oh, yeah.
Kids get to cheering and having a big time. So.
It was a lot of fun.
Yep.
And then Pastor Don's going to leave us.
Pastor Don will be leaving us.
He was just waiting for after the field day.
He was. He was.
Well, guys, thanks for podcasting with me.
Oh, you're welcome. It was fun.
Well, I guess we'll do it again another day.
And thank you all for listening and joining us on Northside Now. Make sure you visit our website, northsidejackson.com. Check us out on Instagram at NorthsideJackson, or shoot us an email at podcast@northsidejackson.com. We'd love to hear from you. Also, make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button. And while you're at it, if you find this show to be informative or entertaining, consider rating us on whatever platform you're listening to us on. And if you'd simply just tell a friend about the show, that would help us out greatly. Once again, this is Patrick.
This is Glenn.
And I'm Kevin.
And that's what's happening at Northside Now.
Bye-bye.